After 14 years in power, dogged by scandal after scandal, the Conservatives came crashing down at last year's general election, losing, as I recall, 2/3 of their MPs and some 251 seats. The result so bad that many well-known pollsters have started to view Britain's oldest political party as a spent force. Rishi Sunak, of course, gave way to the brilliant Kemi Badenoch. Okay, maybe I'm being a bit over-generous, but I'm a nice guy. Badenoch knocking COVID rule breaker Robert Jenrick into second place, where he's been plotting ever since. The bloke, of course, who ordered cartoons in a migrant centre to be painted over, lest the kids staying there enjoyed them. I can see how he can see how Reform are storming it in the polls. I think we can all see how Reform are storming it in the polls. And Jenrick's been trying to ape them by calling for ever more extreme responses to refugees arriving on these shores. Last time I looked, he wanted to deport 100,000 a year, quite a target considering how few people the Tories sent home during their 14 years in charge. And of course, it was Nigel Farage who started the horse trading in August with his promise to bring in mass deportations. I think send 600,000 home when he's in Downing Street, including revoking the status of those giving indefinite leave to stay. Now, after Jenrick broke cover with his plan to deport 100,000, it was only a matter of time before his leader announced her own even bigger plan, and thus Badenoch is going to promise to deport 150,000 people a year. Can I see 200,000 deportations in the room? No, what about 175? No, she's not going to deport them personally, of course. Instead, she's going to spend £1.6 billion of your money setting up the UK equivalent of Donald Trump's ICE, the Immigration, Customs and Exercise goons who try and fail to snatch pizza delivery guys off their bikes and have also been haphazardly snatching US citizens off the street and sending them for deportation, especially if they have black or brown skin. Instead of ICE, which sounds pretty cool, pun intended, Badenoch's going with removals force, which to my ears sounds like a branch of Pickford's. The removals men are going to be given sweeping new powers, including the use of facial recognition without warning to spot illegal immigrants, unless they have every citizen on their database. I'm not sure how that would work. And the force will be expected to integrate closely with the police, who will be required to conduct immigration checks on everyone they stop or arrest. And the proposal forms part of the Conservatives' Borders plan to be announced at the start of their conference today. Immigration is set to be one of the key themes of their annual gathering, with stronger borders, one of two slogans hanging from the front of the conference centre in Manchester. Seeing as some 3.8 million people entered this country while the Tories were running things between 2010 and 2024, I'm not sure if anyone outside the hall in Manchester will buy into their increasingly Trumpian rhetoric. Will you? 03456060973, the number. Can you trust the party that let 3.8 million extra people in to then turf them all out again? And does anyone know when we're going to get those 120,000 health workers the NHS is short of, and all the builders needed to build all the homes, the 1.5 million new homes? Shh, Matthew, there's another dinghy over there. Well, along with the removals men, the Tories want to limit refugee status to those threatened by a foreign government. Those fleeing conflict or less tolerant laws on religion or sexuality would not be eligible, with the party saying few people will qualify. Which, sounds like bad news for our Ukrainian brothers and sisters. I suppose what I'm fundamentally interested in finding out in this hour is whether seeing our mainstream political parties adopt or ape the policies of Donald Trump is a vote-winning tactic. I suppose that's the simple question. 03456060973, the number. Now, in a moment, I'll be catching up with John Vine, a former UK Independent Chief Inspector of our borders. But first, I'm joined by Steve Valdez-Sims, Migrant Rights Programme Director at Amnesty. Nice to see you, Steve.
Morning.
What do you make of Kemi Badenoch's latest position on migration?
Well, I think you accurately summed it up in rather joking fashion, and obviously we should be a bit careful given just how miserable certainly this would mean for many, many people. But there is a bidding game, a bidding war, if you like, going on between, and let's not exclude our government in power at the moment, actually. I mean, they respond to Reform, who respond to them. The Conservatives respond to both of them. You can see that very directly in what you outlined of the figures that you gave, because actually, if you counted up the 600,000 of us that Reform plans to deport over 5 years, works out as 120,000 of us. So we've escalated from 100 to 120 to 150 now. And no doubt, to get the headlines, someone will need to either raise that figure or say something more extreme.
No doubt. No doubt. Why are they doing it?
Well, sadly, again, you must have touched on the right point at the end. I hope it proves wrong, but clearly politicians, certainly in the three parties that at the moment have the wider support according to the polls, believe that policies that are ever more extreme to at least some of us, and when I say extreme, I mean truly nasty, dangerously so, even to the point that the harms that may be caused to people, particularly, as you say, of black and brown skin, may affect British citizens, people long settled, let alone people who are newly arrived. There is a belief that that sort of nastiness will win votes. It's the job, I suppose, of the rest of us to do all that we can, whether publicly or privately, whether with our closest friends and family or with the general public, to dissuade people from believing that such a miserable society that involves simply snatching people off the streets, from hospitals, from schools, from churches, from their homes, from their jobs, wherever it may be, to be whisked away and disappeared, is a world in which we want to live.
Steve, there will doubtless be people who say they haven't got a right to be here, we should chuck them out, send them back to their countries. How do you respond to that?
Well, the reality is that for a very long time we have had a system that is designed to decide properly and fairly whether people have a right to be here or not. And actually that system ultimately protects all of us, because actually you mentioned quite rightly that the US has expelled US citizens. I know through my many years of practice in our immigration system that British citizens have also been detained for expulsion in our system. So if you don't have the checks and balances, then I'm afraid anyone is at risk. And increasingly our politicians are ripping those checks and balances away because they recklessly think that that's fine.
Steve Elder-Simons, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Steve, they're Migrant Rights Programme Director at Amnesty. Let me bring in John Vine now, former UK Independent Chief Inspector of Borders and Immigration. Nice to speak to you, John. Good morning.
Good morning, Matthew.
Yet another political leader claiming that they're going to deport more people than other political leaders. I don't know, it's for me to ask you whether you think it's a vote winner, but I'd be interested in what you make of this ratcheting up of the numbers of people that are going to be deported, and whether it's even feasible.
Well, I think practically it's a real tall order. I mean, we do have a version of ICE in the UK. We have an Immigration Removals Directorate in the Home Office. It's called Immigration Enforcement. It's been in existence as a standalone directorate of the Home Office since 2012, when Theresa May made changes to abolish the border agency, brought it into the Home Office. It comprises around 5,000 people. Officers, and they raid premises, they try and find people who are here without authority, and they're responsible for removing them from the UK. We used to deport about 45,000 people a year consistently in the early between 2010 and 2015. And that fell to 8,000 in 2020 under the last Conservative government. Largely it fell because the government reduced the budget for that organisation by 23% in real terms. And so it's certainly an aspiration. But if you think about America, they remove between 200 and 400,000 people, I think, this year so far. Yeah. We're aiming for 150,000 in a country much smaller than America. Yeah. Where are we going to get the staff from to do this, and how is it going to be possible at all without massive changes to existing legislation around human rights and appeals? So, I mean, this is an aspiration, but I mean, it doesn't look very practical to me in the near future to solve any of the the issues that people are concerned about at the moment.
As you've rightly stated, we already have an equivalent agency here. I'm genuinely, and I don't mean this to sound facetious away, but I'm genuinely wondering whether Kemi Badenoch just wants these people to wear more sort of paramilitary type gear when they go out and about, so they can make people more fearful. Because when I watch the videos of the ice snatchers in the United States, I mean, it's like something from a horror movie.
Well, they already wear a uniform that was created for them, which is, they're civil servants, really. They're people. They're civil servants with civil service conditions. They're a unionised body. They're not like the police service. No. But they're made to look like the police service. And, of course, this was created at the time when, of course, we moved as a country to have, you are now entering the UK border, big signs, being put up at airports, to make it appear that we had a different sort of force there. But in effect, they're civil servants that used to always be there, dressed in their own clothes. They're now wearing uniform. The whole idea is to try and give the impression of toughness. But actually, traditionally, the Home Office has just not been very efficient in removing people from the country who have no right to remain.
I have to say,
that's the position we're in.
I have to say, in prepping for this debate, what you said about those numbers is, I know to be absolutely the case. And there was this massive drop-off of deportations, and you're absolutely right to state that we already have an agency there deporting people that's been starved of cash. So it is. I mean, listening to you, it makes Badenoch's position seem frankly bizarre.